I remember paramedics getting there at one point, and they were trying to test to see if I still had any brain function, I guess. And they go, "Who's the president?" And because I was a president of the Guardians of Children at the time, I said, "Me." So, now that I've done it, I hear more stories where guys have killed themselves by accident doing the same exact thing I did.
I can't think of something more noble than spending your free time helping kids that can't help themselves.
That's why I named my company Exposed Homes, by the way. So in that same mindset of what you just said, I hated how realtors were so just on public one persona, and then behind the scenes completely other.
Well, it's a very shadowy world. I've noticed that, like, I went through hours upon hours of all the different laws you can't break, but who's gonna come after you if nobody knows that you're breaking laws?
How do you charge $1 million clients the same amount of fees as a $200,000 client?
Warning, may contain firework explosion stories, profanity, children's advocation, real estate, and/or peanuts.
I am Woodstock.
Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah,
absolutely. In fact, you had a great bio that you sent us. It was long, but I almost want to just read the thing because that kind of covers the whole, like, I don't know, the full what is Josh, and then we can delve into some of your stories. I don't know. What do you think?
Dude, I'm totally fine with that. Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you want to pull that up real quick? Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk. So this is a bio that did ChatGPT write this?
Okay, so yes, a little ChatGPT in the context of Dave Chappelle, because he's one of my favorite comedians.
Oh,
yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't think I could do a good Dave Chappelle, so I'm not even going to try. But ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about this real estate maverick, Josh Boggs. This guy's been in the game longer than some sitcoms run on TV. With 18 years under his belt, he's not just a real estate consultant, he's the guru of proper pizzazz. His team, the Exposed Homes Group, isn't just some group. It's consistently ranked in the top 150 out of 16,000 licensed agents. That's like being the cool kid at a massive high school, except this time, it's about selling homes, not swapping lunch items. This dude's got more financial know-how than a Wall Street banker at happy hour. This is very Dave Chappelle. Yeah. Starting with the background in financial education, credit, and mortgage analysis, Josh didn't just dip his toes in the real estate pool. He cannonballed into it. His passion for delivering red carpet service is so intense, you'd think he's prepping for a Hollywood premiere with every sale. And get this, he's all about educating folks, like a real estate Yoda schooling Padawans in the art of property deals. Oh snap, there's more. Josh isn't just about selling homes, he's also the ultimate family man. Dude is seriously like the walking, talking, real-life Clark W. Griswold. No shit. Married to the lovely and super fine Norma, who's no slouch herself at Exposed Homes. They've been rocking the partnership for 19 years and are raising 3 future legends. When he's not hustling in the real estate arena, they're out here hitting the road, having more family adventures than the cast of a Fast and Furious movie. This guy's like a superhero with a heart of gold, though for reals. He co-founded San Antonio's biggest real estate club, sold it off like a hotcake, and then flipped the script, diving into charitable work faster than you can say property value. Riding the winds of philanthropy, he joined a motorcycle organization fighting for abused and neglected kids. For 8 years, he revved up his efforts to change until he became the president of the entire nationwide pack, all while still crushing it in the real estate game and snagging properties left and right to build their retirement and fund their purpose-driven lives. Fast forward to 2020, Josh decided he's not done being a hero to kids. He put on his CASA advocate cape, becoming a licensed court-appointed voice for foster kids and those under the state's care. This guy doesn't just talk the talk, he walks the walk, making a real-life difference in the lives of those who need it most. There is no hype behind this man. He lives to help others, and you will know that quickly once you get to meet. You'll know that quickly once you get to meet him. And real estate, this guy's a freaking maestro. From buying and flipping to saving families from foreclosure like it's a walk in the park. This Josh Boggs isn't just a real estate agent. He's the guy you call when you need a property miracle and need results not found by following the in-the-box recipe. Need someone to turn a lemon of a house into lemonade? Josh and his team are your solution, hands down. Heck, he even started a rehab division to help sellers make even more money on their sale and not lose vital equity. He's the real estate wizard with the heart as big as Texas and solutions smoother than butter on a hot skillet. Welcome to the show, to Josh Boggs.
Wow, that is a lot. I'm really upset that it went that long. I guess I need to cut more of that down, but I've enjoyed it. Yeah, that's we got a little loose on the whole Chat GPT when I sent it over there. So
Dave Chappelle needs to cut it short next time.
He does. I need to talk to him about it. Jeez, I think Dave needs to have that conversation with Chat GPT.
Absolutely. So, yep. Yeah, that needs to happen. So, well, dude, you've obviously done a lot. We got a ton to talk about. We got plenty of time to do it. I do want to start off with something. You'd started telling me the story. We decided to wait for the podcast. Apparently, you're a local celebrity because you blew yourself up.
And that's a great way to be, famous nowadays, right? Some people are famous for their TikToks and stuff like that. No, I just do dumbass shit with fireworks. And by the way, thank you for having me on the show. I'm really impressed to be here. You guys have a hell of a studio, hell of a setup. So kudos to you, brother. This is amazing. Rachel's awesome. So, let's start off with that because that is one thing that I start realizing that always on July 4th, I have to mark myself as safe on Facebook from being a dumbass with fireworks, right? And on New Year's Eve because fireworks come up. But yeah, it was 2018, July 8th, and I was in the motorcycle club pretty heavy. I was the president of Guardians of the Children, and we had a bunch of us around this house, and I don't know. Well, I do know why. I wanted to show off, right? Lots of military guys, lots of guys that, have done a lot in their time in the service for the country. And that's one thing was my biggest regret I never did. So I wanted to show off and show these guys that I'm here to stay. And I'm sort of a badass too, right? So I went out, bought the biggest mortar shell that they had. I literally went up to this dude and I said, dude, I want the biggest, loudest mother effer you got. And he gave it to me. It was about a 3.5 inch diameter mortar shell. Yeah, it was a big boy. And we, of course, were all drinking, doing stupid stuff. And the whole time we had about 19 of these launchers on the ground. So we had a bunch of them there. Well, I didn't realize it had rained a lot that day. So it rained. And so all these launchers sitting in the rain, no big deal, right? And believe it or not, I've done this before as a kid where I used to mess around with tubes and shooting them off my head, right? At this point, I just take that mortar shell, I take that mount, and I ended up having, and you can probably see my scars on my hands here. I had a butane lighter in my left hand I was holding at the time. And I just pretty much told everybody, like the bumper sticker would say, hold my beer and watch this, right? And picked this sucker up, lit it, and I put it on top of my head. And when I was doing it, I started to realize like, okay, I'm already committed. And I almost put it on the top of my head. Mm-hmm. But something inside me said no. So instead, I just bent like down, closed my eyes, and it was really angled right above my forehead here. And bam! I mean, went off. I remember the feeling like somebody just took a sledgehammer and hit me on the head as hard as they could. Ooh. And it was rowdy. And there was probably 40 some people at this party. So it was in front of a bunch of people. And I just remember grabbing my head and shaking like, what the hell? And then boom, I was out. That was it. So
wake up in the hospital.
Actually, believe it or not, I didn't wake up in the hospital yet. I remember laying on my back and I have blood over my eyes or something. I couldn't remember. And I just heard screaming and yelling and people crying. And there was all types of light, but I couldn't see anything. So I thought I went blind. And I remember paramedics getting there at one point and they were trying to test to see if I still had any brain function, I guess. And they go, who's the president? And because I was a president of the Guardians of Children at the time, I said, me. So the paramedics like, oh shit, this guy's gone. Yeah. And then everybody starts saying, no, ask him who's the president of the United States is, And so I did obviously answer that question correctly. And they go, okay, he's a little cognizant, right? But I kept going back and forth of consciousness all the way to the hospital. All I do remember is my oldest son coming in the room. My wife had just seen me, and she just started bawling her eyes out because I guess she hadn't seen how bad it was. And now I hear the stories later, and now I understand. They had all covered my head, so she didn't get to see it. So as soon as she came in the room, ER doc was like, you know what? And it was probably, 11:30, 12 at night. So ER doc was like, you know what? We're just going to patch him up and see how he does for the next 2 days because we don't know what's going to happen. And I remember telling my oldest son, like, hey, truck's yours, take care of your mother, take care of your brothers, and he's like, shut the fuck up, Dad, and that was crazy. I was scared half to death, and so 3 days later, after being at university, believe it or not, they discharged me.
Wow.
They discharged me. Now I still had a hole in my hand, so the butane lighter, believe it or not, because that compression of that charge to shoot it up in the air, right, shoots it up to 300 some feet in the air. The compression came back so hard that it blew that butane lighter up, but it did not catch fire. And they're saying that's one of the miracles that I had, because had it done that, I would have been dead instantly because I would have inhaled it or it would have blown me up even further. So what it did is when it blew my hand apart, my left hand, my thumb, all this meat was hanging off, it cauterized it.
Oh, wow.
Because the butane, if you look at it, butane, in a liquid form, it's very, very cold. So it's cold enough where it actually sprayed all over my hand and cauterized that wound. So they, even in the hospital, they didn't really think much of it because there was no real blood loss. There was nothing, even though you had this meat just hanging there, right? So yeah, they discharged me, and that's the first part of it. The second part was I had to go back to the ICU for 2 weeks later because they discharged me so quick. Because I said, man, he's walking, he's talking, he's functional, he's cognitive of what's going on. And it wasn't until, and I'm real stubborn, right? Guys are stubborn, right? When we're hurt, we're like, it'll take a little to get over it. Well, I was at the house and I'd sleep for 4 or 5 hours straight, wake up for 5 minutes, go right back to sleep for 4 or 5 hours. And I kept doing this. And my wife said, baby, I don't think you're okay. And I said, honey, I'm good. She goes, baby, can I take you to the hospital? Right. And my wife's so meek and mellow. She's never aggressive. She knows that I'm sort of handling myself. Woman, I'm going to be fine. And she just burst out in tears and said, can I please take you to the hospital? And it was like 2 a.m. So I said, you know what, baby? I tell you what, if I wake up in the morning, you can take me in the morning. She's like, damn it. She's like, get your fucking ass out. And she was pissed. And so she called up 2 of my buddies in the motorcycle club, said, I need you guys to get this guy to the hospital because he's something's wrong. And so they took me in, and sure enough, ran all these tests, did this CAT scan, and they said, well, your blood, because I had brain bleed. It was like a aneurysm or something like that. And that had gone away. So we're like, oh, that's good. So that's probably, why I'm tired, and it's fine. And they run all these tests, and sure enough, about an hour and a half later, the doc or the nurse comes down and is like, okay, we're about to discharge you. And then he gets a call right in front of us. Yeah, I'm with the patient now. Okay, I'll be right up. He's gone for another hour. I'm like, what the hell is going on? This whole team rushes in and they go, okay, Josh, no worry to panic, no freaking out, but we gotta admit you're going to ICU. Your blood levels show that your salt level was to the point where you should be dead by it right about now. Wow. Had you slept just a little bit longer, your body would have started to go into shock, and you could have woke up dead, right?
Salt in your blood, the saline levels.
Yeah, it's called hyponatremia, and it's so crazy that you just realize that how amazing God is to have us built with all these chemistry and balances, because you don't think of stuff like that. And they said the problem is because you're so low in your salt level, it's not like we can just pump you full of salt and say, hey, go eat some chips and you'll be good. If we do that, your blood levels might get offset, and all the the salt can rush out of your brain because there's this chemistry thing going on, and you'll be brain dead. So they have to slowly, very meticulously raise your salt levels up. And it took about 2 weeks to do that with no food, no drink, because they have to monitor every single hour of where I'm at on my potassium and my sodium levels. So, for 2 weeks, I just had to sit in a hotel, the most expensive hotel room in the world, right?
Yeah.
And do that. So anyway, yeah, that was my story. And
so you were in there for 2 weeks. You didn't have any food or water. Like, I guess they were just feeding you through intravenously.
Yep. Your
nutrients was through a needle.
All IV. When I was even thirsty, they would have to take ice chips and wet my mouth, but I couldn't swallow them because they were worried that it would deplete what was going on, and they had to keep that salt level going.
Oh, I've never heard that.
I didn't either time.
Oh, well, good on you, Norma. Way to be on top of things.
Amen to that. Yeah.
Gosh. Well, that's it's interesting that you say every year people reach out to you as a kind of a poster child of like, hey guys, don't fucking do this.
Right. Exactly. No, and I've got funny stories. Like I would literally walk in HEB because I'm in real estate and everybody knows me. It was either president of Guardians of Children, owner of Exposed Homes. I'm out there publicly. I would have the most memorable instance was I walked up in Best Buy one time, and one of my friends who's a realtor, her 12-year-old boy comes up and she goes, Mom, is that the fireworks guy? And she goes, yeah, it is. And he goes, wow, oh my gosh, he's right here. And I go, what, Janine, what is he saying? And she's like, well, because of you, my kids don't play with fireworks more because I just showed them your photos and now they're convinced they don't like.
Can we get those photos up?
Yeah.
It's just on his Facebook. Right?
It should be on Facebook
I want to see some of these.
Oh yeah.
But so I guess you said you'd left the tubes out in the rain, they swelled up and that's why you couldn't release.
Well, what it did is it put too much water on that hard ass particle board, that wood base that it had. So it wasn't steady enough. So when I'm holding it like this with my two hands, that compression has nowhere to go. There's nothing behind it.
Oh, it just snapped the particle board in half?
So that charge to shoot it up had nowhere to go because there was no solid backing to that. So it just shot right into my forehead.
Gosh. Oof. So your forehead and pretty much your eyes seem fine.
Yeah.
Thank God.
I've got issues there too, but that's a whole nother story. But yeah. Thank God. That's the thing. I had already had retina detachments in both eyes, and I didn't lose any sight on that. So it was amazing to me here. And this is where my faith comes in too. Not that I didn't have it before, but, all the medical staff go, we have no idea how you're still here. We also have no idea how you still have your sight because that concussion alone should have took out your retinas, your optical nerves. And the neurologist I had was an Army doc, and he said that he's had guys die from concussions just having an IUD go off in a Humvee, and that concussion alone. And the equivalent of my blast I had to the head was about a 12-gauge shotgun from about 15 feet out.
Oof.
Yeah, it was nuts. It was crazy. So
that's some damage right there.
God is good, brother. He's been here, so I'm here. So yeah.
Well, it's all learned from your mistakes. I've definitely played with my fair share. Like probably the stupidest thing I've done. It's probably a tie for first. I used, those little black cats.
Oh yeah,
they're just little pops.
Absolutely.
I sat there for hours, broke them open, and filled up a baby food those little small glass jars.
Oh yeah.
Filled that whole entire thing, drilled a hole through the cap, threw like wax around it and sealed it up, and threw a fuse down in there, threw it in this like PVC pipe that was encased in concrete, like under some stairs, completely just like blew up the thing. And I was lucky I wasn't sitting because of just shards of glass shot out of that PVC. And I remember seeing it all like flying past me thinking that was the stupidest thing. I was like, I don't know, maybe 10, 12, something like that. Can't be too mad at myself. But then the second, here's the pictures.
Oh, yeah, I got the pictures there.
Violent or graphics? Yep. Photo. Ooh.
So that was during the healing process.
I can see what you're saying with the butane.
You see where it? Yeah.
Oh, man.
And that was already when it was healing. Oh. There's another one that if you keep going further, yeah, there you go. That was the night of.
Oh, so that's what happened.
That's what happened.
I wonder if YouTube would take this down if we had this up.
I know.
I'm Adrian, worried. Go ahead and throw it up. I'll let you make the call, but and that's the forehead.
That's my forehead.
Your skull.
Yeah, my skull was cracked in 4 different places.
I'm sorry, Rachel. I'm making you look.
Sorry, Rachel. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I should have warned you guys.
Oh, you did, and I still asked for it, but that is brutal. Yeah, there's definitely a warning. Make that note right there.
Oh yeah, gratuitous. Yeah.
Not for kids' eyes. I don't know. This reminds me of when I was a junior in high school. They spoke to us about suicide, and a cop. I don't know if he was a cop or it was just the photographer, but he was the CSI photographer. His job was to go in before anyone touched anything and photographed everything. the only thing I've ever seen as gruesome as that is these photos of you. But because of that, a lot of us kind of woke up to, okay, well, that's what brains look like on a couch sitting next to a body with no face, because the shotgun took them off. And as a junior in high school, I remember thinking they really shouldn't be showing us this, but maybe we should.
Yeah.
Like, we're kind of sheltered. As Rogan puts it, we're just nerfing the world to the point where
Seriously,
everyone just doesn't realize the realities of what this world truly is. And thank goodness we have a civilization to, give us these luxuries. But seeing stuff like that helped that kid out from doing the same thing.
Yeah, and brother, and exactly. Like, I love what you said with Rogan, because he's so true about all that too. But the thing that I wanted to get that out on, and I just had a hard time doing it, because ever since I've gone through that, what people don't know is the repercussions from that accident. So number one, I really wasn't able to ride a motorcycle anymore because I had such bad vertigo and what they call TBI, traumatic brain injury. I just lost a lot of my functional skills when it comes to doing the things I could do. I used to play the drums. Like, I could work with extremities very well. Every extremity could be running differently. I used to do rhythms, and you have to do that with a motorcycle. And I jumped on a motorcycle within 3 months of being out of the hospital. Like, I was dedicated. I was a biker. I was biker for life. And I'm like, this is what I'm going to do. And I started realizing, like, we're going on long rides and we're riding peg to peg, doing 90 miles an hour down the road. That's not a good time to have a problem with your bike and not realize what you're doing. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the, the side effects I've gone through. And so being 6 years ago now, it was like, wow. So if I had anybody, like you just said, come through and show you some of this horrific stuff and said, hey, this is what it's like, blah, 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 I think I probably would have thought twice before I did something like that. But you don't hear about those crazy things until now that I've done it. I hear more stories where guys have killed themselves by accident doing the same exact thing I did. In fact, somebody just, some guy, I don't know if you guys saw the news, I don't know if he was in Texas or not, he had a top hat, like a USA top hat, and he did the same exact thing, but he put it on top of his head. Well, your top of your skull is a lot weaker, right? And so that blast went right through his head, killed him instantly.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things I really like to focus on with this show is people who've not necessarily made it, but been through the ringer a little bit and sharing their dark experiences with others, because that's when we truly learn. But I think just the general concept of being manly is to try to keep that persona of like, no, I'm tough. Like, you don't want to show your weaknesses. You don't want to share your fuck ups. So people like you who are willing to like own it and be a real man and like say like, hey guys, learn from this mistake. That's really what's going to change the world going forward. And that's my hope through, doing this show and just my general day to day of, I kind of maybe share too much, but it's, at my expense to potentially, hopefully help others. So
I love
thank you, man.
No, I love your mission. You're doing great stuff. Same thing. I agree with you.
Well, let's talk about the motorcycle club. You said that was a really big part of, who you were before this accident. How did you actually get involved in it?
So I'll give you the shortened up story because it's so funny. I straight up got into owning a bike because I watched Sons of Anarchy. I shit you not. I literally was just been watching and binge watching whatever on Netflix. Yeah. And my wife finally goes, "What are you watching?" And I told her the show, and she's like, "That is a ridiculous show." And I got her to watch it, and I shit you not, within probably the first episode or first season was over, she goes, "Well, if you're going to get a bike, you need to dress like Jack Steller." And I kid you not, and if you probably looked hard enough, Rachel, which it's going to be real embarrassing, you can find photos where I became a biker. I dressed just like Jack's, and I was so hell-bent to put a cut on my back because that's what they did, right? I didn't want to be some...
explain that, because I watched a few episodes. They actually cut themselves?
Oh, no. Okay, yeah.
Oh, a cut on their back.
It's a cut. So it's a leather jacket that is basically called your cut. And that is what holds your patches and whether, what club you belong to. You've got a back patch and then a bottom rocker, a top rocker. You got your flashes up front that signifies, what position you hold in office. If you hold an office position, that kind of stuff, right? And so, we laugh now because now being in the MC world and diving as deep as I did, we all can't stand Sons of Anarchy. It's a joke, but it's what got me in. So I was at an event for a Make-A-Wish deal for real estate again, because I'm in a bunch of stuff in real estate. And one of my friends, she was on the board of the Make-A-Wish, and she goes, "Hey, we have a 12-year-old kid in New Braunfels. He loves motorcycles. We know you ride. Would you mind showing up?" And I'm like, "Dude, of course." So me and my wife jump on the bike. We go out there. We meet a bunch of bikers out there, and they all got cuts, but there's this one group called Guardians of the Children. And there you go. That was the original. Wow, you're quick on this. That's impressive. Yeah. Nice. So that is the original crew of the Hill Country chapter that I met. The bald guy right behind me, that's Hammy, and he was the president. And him and his wife, Cougar, who's right next to him, they pursued me and my wife on the bike. We literally left this event, and then along with Bubbles and Tex, there's the other couple there, they pursued and literally ran us down after we took off, and were flashing us down. So like, oh crap, what do we do? Did we do something wrong? And they're like, hey,
you just got done watching Sons of Anarchy. You think they're going to come up with a crowbar?
Right. Seriously, we didn't know it. My wife was spooked, right? So they were like, no, hey, we enjoyed hanging out with you. Why don't you come have a beer with us? And we're like, shit, yeah, why not? So, and then they told me about the mission. There it was. That was one of my, well, that was not the first bike, but yeah, one of the many bikes. But once they told me about it, how we helped kids, and we're a nonprofit, and we were a true MC, and there's another, I could go into deep dive on that, but we're not a true.
Let's do it. Like,
yeah. Okay.
That's what we're here for. Like, I'd love to know the underbelly of the MC world.
Dude, well, I can tell you, when I was in it, I was in it. So I've been, moved, I got out of it in 2020, but I've got so many great brothers in it. To me, not serving or not having the ability to serve in the military, the MC world that is the best thing you could ever get into. If you want brotherhood, you want established chain of command protocol, military protocol. Most of these guys that were in it were military, and they ran it like they should. And it was more old school, right? You get out of line, you get your ass kicked, Now, Guardians of Children wasn't like that. So it was different, but it was the MC culture that got me into it and got me excited about it. But Guardians of Children, once I found that out, I was in New Braunfels, and I was quickly going up to the ranks. I started meeting all the other clubs out there, the 1%ers, the other clubs that are out there supporting them, and really finding out that what we had heard behind the back, I guess all the stories that were there, it wasn't really the case, right? We were hearing these guys are murderers and they're rapists, like there are all these things, and I'm like, I'm getting to know these guys on a personal level, and none of these guys are like that. And yeah, they draw a line in the sand about, chain of command and, don't disrespect people and blah, blah, blah. But I love that anyway. That was just what I enjoyed. So I really found a liking into the motorcycle world and jumped in, all hands on deck, came back to the San Antonio chapter when I found out I was going to be president of the Hill Country chapter, because I realized that's a 1.5 hour one-way ride for me. And I had to be out there a lot. And I go, you know what? I didn't know there was a San Antonio chapter when I first joined Guardians of Children. And then I found out it's the mother chapter. It's where it all started. So Guardians of Children, we were all almost over every 50 state. We'd been in existence for 13 years, and we were the mother chapter. It started in San Antonio. So I was like, well, what other cool place to be than San Antonio? So yeah, did that. And then before I knew it, within a year and a half later, I went all the way up and became president, and just shot up quickly. And my goal, and this is the funny part, the diving in deep story, was that in the MC world, Guardians of Children was looked at pretty much as like a weekend warriors, like wannabe bikers, like, oh, isn't that cute? You guys have your own vest and, all of your bikes, and stuff. And they didn't really give us the respect that we needed. And when I got in, they were all telling me, like, hey, you leave them alone, they'll leave you alone. We're doing our thing, they do their thing. And I started realizing, like, okay, well, hold on. I'm in real estate, so I'm going to promote the shit out of it because I love the mission. We're helping kids. We're taking these kids that have gone through abuse and neglect, and we're escorting them to court. And many times when they have to testify against their abuser, which could be a parent, could be a relative, 90% of the time it is, they are not allowed to have anybody else in that courtroom that's family to look upon. So you've got 12 strangers in a jury box staring these kids down, the abuser staring these kids down, and then, of course, typically a defense attorney just blasting this kid's testimony to shred, they have nobody to defend themselves. And so this is what Guardians of Children did, is we brought them in an organization. We gave them a cut. We called them a little guardian, and we would give them a cut. And then when we go to court, we would all ride together with our cuts and escort them together, and then sit in that jury in that jury room, or not jury room, but in the courtroom, and support them.
And just to be clear, the cut's the vest, the leather vest for the motorcycle.
Correct.
That's awesome. That kid must be on cloud 9 when they throw that on.
Oh, I tell you what, that was probably the best. And that's why I'm a retired member of GOC, but it still brings a really big part of me, because I saw these kids that when I met this one girl, and she actually went on the news with us, which was amazing. She was on the news with Ken's Five and my good friend Roma. She was so scared to even look people in the eye, and she had to wear gloves and a hoodie because she didn't want anybody looking at her. She didn't want anybody even touching her. And when we first met her, she was so scared of everybody. After 2 visits with us and bringing her to these events, because we also would raise money for events, she literally gave myself, and that's Tex, and he was my vice president, gave us hugs and actually took the gloves off and gave us hugs. And I tell you what, that rocked us to our core. So we saw these kids go through, they were battered, abused, they felt like nobody was there for them. And then we show up with these badass bikers, and we show up to court, and we don't, we mean business. We're going right through. And now they're like, you know what, I'll take on the world because I got these guys behind me. And that's what's awesome. Yeah.
That's very cool. So when you had your accident with the fireworks that kind of ended your ability to ride, how was it selling that bike?
Dude, well, I went through several, and what's crazy is I got out of GOC, and I said, you know what? I'm going to go to the red and gold world, which is the MC world, right? I'm going to go straight up, not 1% right off the bat, but I wanted to go down that line, because I heard so many people, even though I had all these guys around me, I said, I want to go that route. Well, that was when I started realizing also that I was having more problems with riding the bike and stuff like that. And it just wasn't an unfortunate lifestyle that I didn't want to be part of. It couldn't fit with my day-to-day operation to be a real estate agent, being in the public,
Mm-hmm.
So I got out and sold that bike. And I had 2 bikes at the time, and they were just paperweights in the garage. And I was like, I got to get rid of them. I mean, I'm not doing anything with them. And so it was tough. I was going to lie. For 8 years I was a biker. And so I even have on my arm, FTW, which in my own definition is follow the word, which is in red because Jesus' word was red in the Bible. And then on the outline, it's black for forever 2 wheels. And that's what I always thought I was going to do, is ride a bike until I die, but it was a chapter of my life that had to end. And then I turned it into Corvettes, and here we are. So.
Well, that's awesome, man. To segue into, or I guess from the fireworks shenanigans, you want another beer?
Yeah,
do
please.
Some stupid stuff on alcohol?
Of course, absolutely.
Go Shiner again?
Yes, please. Oh, that's cool. So you actually get to edit this as you go and stuff?
We'll probably do this in. We're still kind of talking.
Okay.
For the most part, we don't do too much editing. Kind of just to recap something I was kind of telling you before, like one of the goals I had, which we haven't done 100% perfect job of it, is it's trying to keep it as authentic as possible. If you get hot, let me know. I can throw a little fan on.
Oh, okay.
Too.
Awesome.
Trying to get it authentic. I mean, this may be a little, exuberant of a thought, but I mean, AI is going to be learning from us. And right now it's going to be learning from TikTok dances and just the jack bullshit that we currently have. And so, although it's just a tiny little drip in a pond, I feel trying to get just an organic, authentic as possible conversation out there is going to allow, whether it's a human listening or a learning machine, or they're going to say, hey, this is actually reality.
Yeah.
And there definitely is a place out there for those viral videos and memes. It's awesome. It's part of the zeitgeist. It's how we all kind of interact right now in this world. But at the same time, I think we need a balance in everything. And what we don't have enough of is long-form conversations of just normal people who aren't full of shit.
I love it.
I mean, how many times do we see celebrities out there, they say one thing,
and
then you realize, they're acting. They are actors.
Yeah.
Whether it's a politician, an oligarch, or whatever, they are saying what they feel needs to be said.
Oh, real
instead
estate
of who they are.
Seriously. It drives me nuts. That's why I named my company Exposed Homes, by the way. So in that same mindset of what you just said, I hated how realtors were so just on public one persona, and then behind the scenes completely other, tear and shred their clients up, talk shit about, and yet they're out making really good money, and then they're making one person think one way and another, and a whole nother behind the scenes they're doing something else. And I was like, you know what? Expose homes. So I want to expose people to the whole game of real estate, let them peek behind the curtain, see everything. There's nothing that's going to be hidden. So whether I'm dealing with somebody on a deal, I will send snaps of that chat to my clients so they can see, no, this is what we discussed, right? So there's no bluffing or fluffing of the facts and shit like that. It was just straight up me helping them out, doing everything I can to do that. So
I got my real estate license years ago. I never ended up practicing. Me and my wife just did all the courses, went and took the test. We thought we both failed walking out of there.
Oh yeah,
I was surprised at how hard it was. And we ended up both passing first time, even though we were surprised at it. And then we started talking about it, and we realized that nights and weekends are way too important for it.
You're like, what idiots are doing this?
That was probably a year before, maybe a year or two before I decided podcasting was the stupid decision that I was going to move forward with. But I did notice that when you take the courses, I honestly think everyone should take at least a dumbed down real estate license course before they buy a home. You're going to I didn't know what escrow was the first time I bought a house, for God's sake. I just went along with what it is. There's a reason that I think there is a need for an agent, and it's because people throw so much trust on them. It's a fiduciary duty is the word that they use with lawyers. They use real estate agents as well, and there's a good reason. You can have an agent who unethically will go in there and convince someone to have them be both the buyer and the seller, and then they're just going to get 6% of this home, and they're not going to take care of either party. And there's reasons that we have all these fail-safes. And I'm not saying there's not an ethical way to do it, because there is a legal and ethical way to do that. But it's very, very easy to take advantage of people who don't know what they're doing. And I have a lot of friends who are agents. I think the ones that I know, at least in depth, how they do, they're all fantastic. They're more of coaches. They're trying to help people understand the process. They really do fight on the seller side to get the highest. On the buyer side, it's get it the cheapest. They've turned me down options of where they were going to do both buyer and seller. That was the just type of people they were. But it definitely has a negative stereotype around a lot of real estate agents because of the ease at which people can be taken advantage of, both on the, whether it's, religion, race, sex, all of these things you learn about through getting that license. You don't even realize that it can completely affect the shape of a city.
Oh yeah, 100%. And the fiduciary is one thing that you hit on. Is I really hit home with all my clients up front. It's like, guys, I have to put your needs above my own. That's what fiduciary means. And yes, just we always hate to say this because everybody gets sick of, real estate agents aren't doctors, real estate agents are attorneys, right? So we hate to use that analogy, but I usually have to bring that back into play because this is the only difference legally here in the state of Texas between me and an attorney is that if you did it, they can still not give you up in a court of law. I would have to sit on the stand and say, yes, Your Honor, I know he did it because he told me he did, right? The attorney doesn't play that same way. But as far as the fiduciary goes, it's the same thing. And so, especially when the market blew up after COVID, we saw the most dumbass transactions going on. And this is why NAR has the lawsuit. I mean, I just put out a video today, me and one of my partners in the Exposed Homes, because the lawsuit came about because there's so many bad players that were in the business, and it's so easy. And I hate to say it, and that's why I don't like saying I'm a realtor. anybody can get a license. You got $300, $400 and a weekend free, get it. And you said the test is hard. You're right. But I bet you if you go to some of these other schools that I know that they're doing the prep test, they're giving you all the answers before you go in and take the test.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just a revenue cycle for the associations to get their realtor dues, to get that money going in, and to make it look like they're, doing something for the industry. And it's really not. So
before we keep going, let's talk a little bit about that suit. There's going to be potentially a big change in how real estate's done going forward. I don't know a lot of details, but I know part of it is surrounding the compensation, where it was set, the buyer agent 3%, selling agent 3%, or broker, and that's split off to the agent depending on whether you're own broker. How do you think these recent suits are going to change the landscape of real estate?
Well, and so I'm going to say something that you said, and this is why I love to hear what your opinion is, because you said the set 3% to the seller's agent. It was never set. The problem is all of my clients would ask me, hey, is it still the traditional 6%? I go, oh, well, no. That's what's been put out there, but you can always change it up. Like, you don't have to do that. And unfortunately, so many realtors were making that assumption, and what they were doing is hiding behind the broker. Right. So I'm broke with Keller Williams. There's over 1,300 of us in one office alone. We're the largest office in the US. And it would be easy to say, oh, Jace, hey, my broker says it's got to be 6%. Sorry, that's what it is. Right. They can hide behind the broker, and who's going to call their broker up and be, hey, your agent said this. Is it right? Right. So they were just taking their word for it. So there was definitely some bad players that were in the game. But for the most part, like you said, all of your friends that are realtors, them being upstanding people, right? There is a lot of really great realtors out there, and that's why they're still doing 80% of the business, right? It was just the 10%, maybe 20% that were doing the things the wrong way, and they're the ones that made the loudest voices for this to happen. So the changes that are coming down, they're really, in my opinion, I'm more excited about the changes than ever, because I'm a negotiator. I teach negotiations at KW. I love being hard-nosed negotiator when it comes to just getting what I want for my clients, and really using every aspect of what I see to negotiate as hard as I can. Now that we cannot promote what the buyer's agent is going to get paid on the deal, that really opens up things for guys like me that could come in and really sort of hammer the sellers hard, because they said, oh, the seller's not paying a buyer's agent commission. Like, oh, okay, that's great. Well, now our offers now can really hang on the fact that our buyer may not want that house because you're not paying that. And if you don't want to pay it, then great, we're going to pull our offer and go somewhere else. Where before, if it was in the MLS, let's just say, Jason, they said 1%. Hey, buyer's agent gets one paid. I couldn't argue that. So I would have to tell my clients, guys, unfortunately, I can't argue. I can't negotiate with my commission. It's stuck. This is what it is. The buyer's rep agreement you guys agreed to sign, and you guys did at the very beginning, it states that if we can't get up to 3%, you guys would have to compensate for the rest. But I'll work with you on that. But again, I had my hands tied when it came to negotiating against the listing agent or the seller on what my commission could be, because my client said, hey, we want you to get 3%. But then now you're saying, well, you only get 1. I couldn't fight it, but now I can. So it's unleashed guys like me that want to be aggressive and, okay, if my clients really want this, we're going to go after it. And cool, you don't want to do it. Well, then we're going to make the offer contingent on the fact that they now have to compensate me, which is going to lower your offer. You're going to net a lot less than you would have had you just been paid us in the first place.
So Rachel's doing what Rachel does. She said, what are the NAR lawsuits about? It says it's a little complicated, but the basis of the recent NAR lawsuits boiled down to the group's MLS, and that's the site where agents can go on. It's kind of like a Zillow but a better Zillow.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like it's a comprehensive Zillow just for agents. It's a cooperative compensation rule, which was introduced in the 90s in response to calls from consumer protection advocates for buyer representation. According to that rule, in order to list a for-sale property on an MLS, the database's agents used to share properties amongst themselves. They must offer commission to the agent who ultimately brings in the winning buyer. Historically, this has resulted in a 5 to 6% total commission, with half going to seller's agent and half to the buyer's agent. So the catch, though, the buyer doesn't pay their agent's fee directly. Instead, the commission is fully paid by the seller as part of their closing costs. According to the recently settled suit, as well as other litigation, this amounts to a form of antitrust, allegedly reducing competition and pushing up commissions higher than services warrant. So it's all surrounding the MLS and the access to it, right? Or how would you kind of do a breakdown of this?
Well, and I'll be the first to admit that I've got an in-house attorney, so I've leaned on him for a lot of the legalese stuff on it. But I haven't dove in or dive too much harder into the weeds on a lot of this stuff, because what I've noticed is there's a lot of stories that are still missing the point and putting it the way they want it, right? These big bad realtors are coming in, and like that one just said, oh, well, there's hardly any service provided for that fee. No, that's not true. The MLS, to answer your question, MLS is, yes, a database that when you put that home on the MLS, it would have a forced buyer compensation area where you would have to put what you're paying. Now, you could pay zero. I mean, you could do that. But here's what NAR is stating, and this is where a lot of realtors would get in trouble. Jace, let's say you tell me, hey, I'm coming to San Antonio. I want to live in Stillwater Ranch. I've heard that great neighborhood is amazing. Can you send me all the properties that are there that might fit my criteria, right? And as an agent goes through, they see, oh, all of them are paying 3%, except for this one guy, he's paying 1%. And then you would not send him that listing. Well, clearly, those are bad apples anyway. That's something that should have already been smacked down, and the broker should have.
Even though that 1% may be a best fit for your client, you're not giving it to them because you're going to get paid less.
Yep, and that's really what was going on, especially with builders. So, and you know builders, but a lot of builders were having these agent realtor bonuses, and they were disclosing this to their clients. So when they go and promote these builders and you're like, hey, Josh, I see a bunch of pre-owned properties I really like in Stillwater Ranch. Oh, no, you really want to check out this Coventry home over here because they're offering really good incentives to the buyer. But then what they're not saying is they got a 3% realtor bonus behind the scenes that you won't really find out to the very end when you go to closing. And you go, wow, my realtor got paid all that. Where did that come from? So there was a lot of things that definitely needed to be changed. But just in my opinion alone, I think when government oversteps and does this, like obviously the DOJs try to step in 2 or 3 times and try to revamp what their comments are on this, it's going to muddy the shit out of the waters. And right now, in my opinion, it's actually going to make the process of buying a home almost harder for a buyer to understand, right? Because right now, and it always was this way, hey, Jason, if I'm negotiating, like let's just say I find you a for sale by owner, and the for sale by owner said, hey, I don't want to be on the MLS and I don't want to pay commission, just know I'll help you out with that, but that means you're going to have to pay me commission. Mm-hmm. Okay, well then I don't want to do that, so let's not shop for sale by owners. Easy as pie, right? The buyer had the choice. They made that choice, and they said, well, if this is our options, then I want to go with this option, right? I want you to get compensated, and I don't want to have to pay you because I'd rather somebody else to do it. And a lot of realtors weren't explaining it that way, and that's where we're at.
So one idea that's been kind of pushed, and this isn't a new concept, I've heard it all over the place, is just having a flat fee. Because as a percentage, as a buyer agent, your job is supposed to be, due to your fiduciary duties, to get the lowest price possible. You're incentivized to not do that simply by making a percentage, right? And so one of the ideas that's been floated is to at least buyers, if not both buyers and sellers, saying, hey, this is a service I provide. If I provide the service, this is X what I charge, and it's not based on a percentage. Do you think that could potentially weed out some of the unethical options?
Well, that's a good one, because weeding them out or causing more problems with those agents, right? You
could cause more problems?
Oh, yeah. I will think about it this way. So I'll give you a great case in point. One of my partners right now has already worked with a client that they're buying in the $800,000 originally price point. And after looking at about 30 homes, have decided, well, their tastes are a lot different and they want to go up. And now they're looking at close to the $2 million. So now total, there's 44 homes that she showed in the span of 4 months. They've flown in a couple of. If it was a fee-based, then we could be like attorneys and say, well, cool, I'm tracking my mileage, I'm tracking how much per home and do this. That would be a bill they're going to be building up as they go. Most buyers are not going to pay it. Now, how do we go after that buyer to get the compensation? Now you've got all types of litigation coming in, right? And it's the worst thing ever to have a broker have to go after their own client. That just doesn't sound good, right? So how do you do that? Well, then you have to force compensation up front. Well, I need this much up front. Well, what if we don't see that many homes? Well, if we don't, then I got to figure that it just is really going to add more struggles to it. And that's sort of why the commission model was such a good commission model to begin with, because it's based on law of averages. So that client that Diane is showing has worked her tail off, and she still doesn't have them under contract. And hell, they might be another 4 or 5 months before they really get serious again. Versus another lead that we just had. Hey, he knew where he wanted. He knew who I was. I was out of town. I said, hey, you work with my business partner. She's amazing. And within 3 homes, you find him what he wants. Boom, got him under contract. Right. So the dollar average, and even though that sales price is only going to be $250,000 house, right? Not a lot of money, but it's sort of average out on the workload. So how do you charge $1 million clients the same amount of fees as a $200,000 client? You know what I mean? Like, how would you do that? It'd be almost impossible to do that. Because there's the same amount of workload.
You think it's more work for a higher cost home?
Oh, there normally is. It's not compensatory, so it doesn't always like slide and scale, right? I've had clients that I've had a doctor of mine. He has limited time. He trusts me. Boom, Josh, show me the top 5 homes that fit my criteria, and we're on it. And $1.5-2 million house. I made a great payday on that one. And of course, we always incentivize him back. He's military. I give him what other perks behind the scene, right? But then I also have clients as well that don't know what they want, and they're new home buyers and blah, blah, blah. They've got a lot of questions of new builds versus this. It's going to take a lot more hand-holding with them. And so at the end of the day, if you ask me straight up, is it always a lot more work? No, not really. Because typically the higher priced home people have already got as much education experience out of it that for the most part, know what they're wanting. They know what they want, and they're just going for it, and they just need an agent to make it done.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Yeah, it's a complicated situation because I even said earlier, I truly feel that, especially on a first-time situation, I didn't know what the heck was going on, and I'm glad I had someone I could trust. They steered me into what I needed, which was something that was viable long-term as an investment, but also comfortable while I was in it. But at the same time, I could have been led astray. And I guess it just comes down to, we live in fucking America, and you better do your research.
Exactly, right.
Find the right guy to work with, or hell, get your own license and do it yourself. It's hours of studying, a lot of getting lucky at the beginning, making a lot of mistakes. And that's why we pay people who have the 18 plus years of experience.
Absolutely.
So what do we have up here, Rachel? So the NAR lawsuit will go into effect, or the practice changes will go into effect August 17th here in 3 weeks?
Yeah, 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Yep.
So real estate agents who use and list properties for sale on a multiple listing service, or the MLS, will be required to enter into written agreements with buyers before touring a home. Those written agreements must include a specific and conspicuous disclosure of the amount or rate of compensation the real estate agent will receive, or how this amount will be determined. So this goes back to the new home, like it'll be upfront. They have to disclose that. Compensation that is objective, for example, a flat fee, $0, X% hourly rate, and then not open-ended. For example, cannot be buyer broker compensation shall be whatever the amount the seller is offering to the buyer. Okay.
Yep.
And then 2 more points. A term that prohibits the agent from receiving compensation for brokerage services from any sources that exceeds the amount or rate agreed to in the agreement with the buyer. Okay. And then a conspicuous statement that broker fees and commissions are fully negotiable and not set by law. So that's something that I think from someone earlier that explained it to me, that last point was one of the reasons that this lawsuit was brought about, is because there was the false, I guess, intentional education of, no, this is just how it is. It's 3% or nothing. And although that's what it's probably going to end up being at. I mean, the market's the market, and that's just kind of how prices go. You do have options, though. Like, people go online now. They use these new mortgage companies that you don't talk to a person. You just let shit happen.
Yep.
And I think it's with anything. It's high risk, high reward.
Yeah, and like you said, the do it yourself generation, right? We all go to YouTube. You can look up anything now. I mean, thank God for YouTube, right? I learned how to tie a tie for YouTube's sake, right?
I installed a trailer hitch on my truck by myself with zero knowledge. I didn't have the right tools. I would not recommend.
You know what? The way I look at it too, though, is if you're going to be specialized and really take the most advantage of your time. Right, time and money are really our own two leverages that we've got.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I could save a lot more money by doing it myself, but how much time is it going to take me? And then if I mess up or I do it wrong, then how much time is it going to take me to go backwards, recount my steps, or then finally give up and take it to a professional? And in real estate, the same term applied. What's so frustrating is that I ran my business a lot different than most. Is that even when, let's say, you came into town and you knew me, and you're like, "Hey, Josh, we go back years. Hey, I need you to show me some houses in San Antonio." I'm like, "Cool, Jace. Here's what I need to do. First, I need to sit you down or go on the phone with you. I need to get all your needs out of the way, your wants out of the way, what areas, what your hobbies are. And then I got to go over the buyer consultation of the buyer process and the buyer's rep agreement that shows everything going on. Just so you know, we're going to be only representing you. I never double side, so you're never worried about me showing you my own listings, because that's not how I work. I don't operate that way. I like you said earlier, I think agents that do that are just really just trying to screw somebody over, because you cannot represent two parties in one deal, right? Just like you can't serve two masters. So if I already have an agreement with a seller to market their property and do everything I can and get them the highest dollar possible, then how in bloody hell am I going to do that when I then bring a buyer that also I'm representing and bring them in the mix and say, "Hey, you guys figure it out, but I'll take 6%. Right. And a lot of realtors are doing that. Like, well, that's my job to get it sold. No. I get it. Your job is definitely to get it sold, but you're also having a fiduciary in place, which means you're selling it for the most that you can for that client, doing all this. Well, I did. Well, how did you do that? Well, I stepped out of the way and just let them handle it. Well, what the hell is that doing?
What are you getting paid for at that point?
Exactly. And that was what was going on. And that was the way the Texas agency laws were set, that you cannot represent it.
And it still is.
And it is. Yeah. So you can basically do intermediary without appointments, and you pretty much let them fight it out, and you get 6%, the full story.
But then again, it's America that goes back on the seller and the buyer. Like, we need it. That's why I like having these conversations. People are going to listen to this, are going to realize, oh, not every agent is created equal. And so the hard part is, it's like, how do you do any research on, like, oh, this guy's going to screw me over or not? And it just really comes down to word of mouth is what it's that sphere of influence, as they say in the industry, you know?
The hardest part, I'll tell you that, is that you're right. So my business took a long time to get off the ground, because I was very word of mouth. And to this day, our whole team, we call it relationship-based business. We're not transactional based. So if you ever see me on Facebook, which you'll never will, going out there like, "Hey guys, we're trying to hit 300 million this year in sales volume. So anybody who's looking to buy and sell, we need to hit them up, blah, blah, blah." That's transactionally based. They are only in business to hit a target, to make as much money as they can. And I'm not saying that all these people don't care about their clients, but you already know, if you understand what they're putting out to the world, that's their mission, right? That's their focus. Versus, "Hey guys, we met with Mr. and Mrs. Gutierrez, and we had to help them out from a really sticky situation, and they got a phenomenal deal on it because they had all these investors hitting them up to sell their house, and all I needed was a bunch of paint, new carpet, new tile work, blah, blah, blah." We ended up funding that for them, gave them the money to do it, and then now they got the equity boost out of it. We were able to sell their house for $60,000, $70,000 more than they thought they could get. That's the difference. And it's not easy, and it takes money, and it takes time. Thankfully, I'm very invested in my real estate game, because my wealth came from buying real estate from the very beginning. So I am definitely not like a lot of realtors. It's, "Hey, I have a budget for each transaction. I can only do this." Not that I'm just throwing money away. I'm not dumb like that. I am still a business owner, but at the same time, I have access to different ways to help a homeowner out or a home buyer out, different ways than most realtors do, just because I'm willing to put my own nuts on the line, basically.
And at the end of the day, it just comes down to whether you give a shit or not. I've dealt with both types. I've only purchased 2 homes in my life, but I've shopped around for homes that didn't actually come to fruition with different agents. I've experienced the whole gamut, and it really does. I think part of it's luck of the draw, unless you just happen to know someone. So what would you recommend? You're coming into San Antonio, you don't know anyone, you don't know who Josh Boggs is. Is there a resource of finding people that like you actually can trust, or maybe there's a database of history of like good agents?
Yep. And I was just going to go there, and I'm sorry I get ADD. Everything can be manipulated. That's the truth. But I will say this, the best thing that we've been doing, and we're had to restart from scratch, is Google reviews.
Okay.
I tell everybody, like, hey, would you please put a Google review out there? I'm not writing this for them. I don't, and a lot of agents will do that. I mean, and that's the hard part, right? So you can't just scratch the surface and think you've done everything. What I would recommend is go to Google, Yelp, Facebook, Google them and see where are they at, and see how open they are with stuff, because you quickly will see the reviews, and then you can call 2 or 3 of those people. And what's best, I think what's been great in my experience, some of the hardest will kick your ball. I mean, they just would interview the shit out of me when I first met them and said, hey, I need 3 sources of referrals. And yeah, I saw what you put on there, but I also like 3 that haven't posted referrals, right? And so I always tell them, guys, flat out, it's privacy issues. So if they don't say anything, I can't get them, but I have to ask them first. So I would always go back to them, and I could always go and find at least 3 or 4 people. Hey man, would you have a conversation with this guy if I gave you their number, or is it okay to give you? And they would do that, and they would interview the hell out of me. And what would be so frustrating is they'd already had bad experiences with other agents, and I would feel like I already overcame most of those objections, and they would still want to interview the hell out of me. So I go, okay, sure. And then sure enough, they would call my people like, oh, you call 3 of them? No, we only called 1. After 1, it was enough. The fact that you were willing to do that, as busy as you are, do that meant a world to us, right? So I think you can't, and that's also why I don't believe real estate agents will be ever gone away soon. I know AI is catching up and all this, but it's the relationship base, like you said it, Jace, the trust. How do you build trust? You look them up to see if they're a real, genuine person, right? You see other people interacting, and then you got to make the call. It can't just be online only. I think that's too hard of where people want, it's a microwave society. They just want quick answers. I want somebody right now. And that's where we would lose out on a lot, because Zillow took advantage of that. They would hire, they would make realtors pay a shitload of money to put them up as their top preferred realtor. And people are like, oh, well, they got all these referrals in Zillow and they are top preferred, so I must go with them. Doesn't mean that they did anything great. Just meant they put more money into Zillow's pocket. So that's why they promoted them.
Yeah, I was caught by that trap. So two things. I think you hit on one that I'd never even thought of. And I feel the best route is, if you're moving to a place, get some names. I mean, it's just luck of the draw at first, but asking for reference would be great. Yeah, you're the one picking them out, so sure, it's going to be biased towards you, but being able to hear, like, hey, what was it like working with him? Did he pick up the phone? Because a large part of it is just, it's service, is being able to, like, answer the right questions, be clear with people. One I did was, if you are coming from a place where you know a broker or an agent, have them reach out to a few places, because they know what questions to ask, and they're going to be able to call out the bullshit. You'll talk to them for 5 minutes, be like, oh, you have no idea what the hell you're talking about, and move on. That I think would be a nice time saver. If you got a good friend, or maybe someone you worked with that can't work in the city you're moving to, say, hey, do me a favor, reach out, vet a few people, and let me know what type of heartbeat you got off of those conversations. So any other thing that you would add to that?
Oh, yeah, I love what you said, because you brought up such a very vital part of what we do for our clients is the network referrals. And I will interview them. If I say, hey guys, you're moving to Tampa, I already know 2 agents that are rock stars, so it's easy for me to give them 2 numbers and say, hey, you figure it out. But if they are moving somewhere I don't have them, hey guys, my job is to protect you at all costs, so let me interview, and I've got contacts I can make And it's not just brokerage and centric. So it's not like I'm just going to only stay at KW. Oh, hell no. I've got a lot of buddies that are EXP and Real. I will go find the agent. And what I do from my side as an agent, I look up on realtor.com and I look and search agents. And then I look at how much they have on their bio and then how many sales it shows they're doing on realtor.com just to see if they got enough experience. But I also make sure I try to find agents that have a small team or by themselves. And here's why. Because that typically tells me they're not trying to build this eccentric, gigantic system that now this person is just going to be one of the, just one in the cog. Mm-hmm. They're going to be somebody that's really going to be looking after them, and they're going to coddle them, make sure they take care of them.
More of a boutique experience.
Yeah, and that's the hard part. I'll be honest. I mean, that's the hardest thing. We could go on that all day because I have many groups that are, there's a big group in my team. I know the owner, phenomenal guy. I love him to death, but he's got over, sells over 100 million a year, but he's got like 40 agents working for him. Well, if you divide that out, that's not a lot. And I've had experience with some of those agents. I'm like, holy shit, they have no idea what they're doing. And their client may not, but it's just boosting their bottom line. So, and not, I hope I'm not trying to sound bad about somebody, but that's why I always told my wife, it was just me and my wife for the longest time until Diana, one of my first real estate clients, came to me and said, I'll get my license. I own several investment properties and I love what you did. And you always took care of me on all the properties you did. I want to work with you. And I go, no, you don't. Yeah. I said, no, I don't. And she's like, no, I do. And she has been gangbusters. And then sure enough, we had one more grow at this that I did a transaction for that literally I had the buyer, she had the seller, and she was stuck. She was up against a wall. Her sellers are pretty much like, have a house that was unsellable, there were certain things to be done to it. And I was able to convince the contractors to step in that I knew, fix up the house, hold it as a lien, get paid at closing because I had my name behind it. And she called me afterwards. She goes, oh shit. She goes, that was amazing. Nobody's ever done that for me before. I would have lost that sale. Your buyers clearly needed the house, which they did. My buyers loved the house. So she's like, I want to talk to you, and so that's how that started. But we're keeping it small. I'm not trying to like, hey, you want to come work real estate? Come on my team. We're very boutique because we need that relationship, and we want people to know that you're not just another notch in the wheel. We're making sure that you're part of the process because at the end of the day, and I tell everybody, this is my spiel, it's my script. The two catches up front is yes, you're going to compensate me for the job we're doing because that's what keeps the lights on and keeps my family happy and keeps us fed. But second of all, I want to rock this out of the park so that way you are going to always think of me as your real estate agent for life, and everybody else you're going to be ready to go to the mountaintops and speak on my behalf, and that's all I'm trying to do. So,
hell yeah,
there you go.
Well, cheers to that.
Yeah.
So,
thanks, brother.
One thing that sorry, I'm looking up here. What you bringing up, Rachel? Oh, actually, that's a good
CASA.
Segue. That's a good segue. You are the second agent I've had on the podcast that works with CASA.
What? No kidding.
Is it like a realtor thing? Or?
No, and that's very rare. So I don't, maybe you can tell me now or later because that's cool. I don't, there's only two other agents that I know that in San Antonio that we're doing, at least in the San Antonio branch. Mm-hmm. But no, it's not like a realtor thing at all. So,
well, shout out to Marco. He's my boy.
Okay.
Marco Portis. He's a agent down in Victoria, Texas, where I used to live. He spoke very highly of this organization. I know a little bit about it. Do you want to refresh my memory?
Dude, that's awesome. I do need to connect with him because I love like-minded guys that are willing to do that.
He's very cool immigrant from down in, oh, shoot. I'm going to get this wrong. Damn it, Marco. Sorry, man. Central to South America. Dang it. I need to know this. Nicaragua? No.
I'm sort of good with geography. But
hey, Marco, sounds like it's another time to do a podcast. Come up to San Antonio. Well, maybe we'll do Enjoy. We talk about CASA.
Let's get it together.
You guys can talk shit on real estate agents.
Hell yeah. No, I'd love to do that.
Yeah, that's Marco.
That's him. Okay. Yep. All right. I'm not going to knock him with Remax, but whatever.
Hey, Keller Williams or Remax? Which one are you going to go? Obviously, you're KW.
I'm KW, but I'm not. Yeah, that's the thing I tell you about. I don't drink the Kool-Aid.
Is there a brokerage to stay away from? I don't want you to talk too much shit.
Gosh.
But, I mean,
You know what?
If you're in the game, you know.
Okay. I'm just going to say it. I'm not talking shit about them, but because I've got a lot of good friends that jump ship from KW to this brokerage. What's really funny is if you look them up, the first three letters of my name for my company's name, Expose Homes, there is a company, a very large brokerage called EXP.
Okay.
Right. So they got rid of the brick and mortar model, the traditional model, to save on cost. And them doing that, they all went everything online. Everything's virtual. So you get an avatar, you get all this. And I'm certainly not going to speak on everything EXP platform because I definitely don't know it that much. But we get recruited probably, once a week from people that are EXP because their model is, hey, if you bring people in, then they get a percentage of the sales under your downline.
That sounds something I'm familiar with. Yeah. An upside down ice cream cone.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Uh-huh. You made the letters there. And again, I'm not knocking it, but there's a lot of phenomenal agents. I mean, one of my best buddies in Phoenix that run one of the largest groups in Phoenix was at KW. They even tried to buy a franchise, and that's a big reason why I'm not pro KW nationwide, because I'm with the number 2 brokerage in the country, and we're number 2 on when it was developed. So we're here at the grassroots level, and my broker and owner is probably one of the most respected guys I've ever met in real estate. So as long as he's around, I'm always going to be loyal to him, and I'm a very loyal guy.
So wait, how does Keller Williams work? And I'm assuming RE/MAX is similar, where it's a national brokerage, but are there on the local level each? You can start your own
franchise.
Brokerage. You can get your broker's license, be the broker, and then it's more of like a marketing thing is what Keller Williams brings, or like, how's that work?
Easiest way to say it's pretty much a franchise, right? Okay. So you if the geographic location's available, you become your broker's license, then you learn to go buy a franchise or a model, and then you get it, right? So you're just, part of that franchise. RE/MAX has a different commission brokerage split. Typically, they're more fee-based towards those agents. They'll give an agent 100% of their commission, but then they bill them for everything. When KW first came out, it was just a game changer, right? Gary Keller came through and created this whole thing. And I'm not going to go through the whole history there, but KW grew so quickly because it was agent-centric. It wasn't about the broker, meaning that, like, if you were the broker, Jason, and you had 10 other agents there under your downline and you're managing them, but you're out there competing for business. Well, if you're a competing broker, then it's a little frustrating when your broker's out there with, obviously, who's going to get the listing.
Your boss is competing against you.
Right.
I've been there.
Yeah, there you go. It sounds like you enjoyed it, right? So yeah, the KW model was built around, no, the broker is not in active status. They're not competing. So they're completely stepped away. Okay. They're in management side only and ownership only. So they're there to help provide as much service to you as possible and do that. And with us, we have it. We have our own building. We own 3-story building in 1604 and 281. We have an in-house attorney. We have all this staff that helps us to basically make it the best experience possible when clients come in. But again, EXP took out that brick and mortar expense and then is rewarding clients with, stock or agents with stock options and revenue shares, stuff like that.
Okay. So it's really just a scale of economy of scale, trying to just get it big, and they'll take a small little pinch off the top of each person that comes in, aka pyramid scheme. But
and the sad part of it is Keller Williams has a profit model, so I'm not going to say we don't have either. We have a profit share model. It's different from revenue share model. Mm-hmm. There's a big difference there, and people don't get that, right? So let's say Rachel comes to KW through you, not through me. Well, directly, I'm not getting anything out of Rachel, except if she is still a top producer and the company itself is making profit that month, we get all a share of that profit, versus that only you would benefit EXP on Rachel's success. So, and they came up with the whole stock options and stuff like that to try to, give a little bit of different of a profit share model. But I mean, it's not like the stocks are going crazy and like, oh my, holy shit, it's going booming overnight, right? It's
I want to step it back. Yeah, I'm not talking shit on the EXP here. Like I'm saying, pyramid scheme is in the first thing I think of when it's hey, if you bring someone on, you get a little piece of cut of that. I'm saying, you can, go down a slippery slope there. I'm not saying that's how they run their business. I don't know, but It is a new way of doing things. There's been the real estate game hasn't really changed too much on the big stuff, commissions and stuff. But like I've had some pretty in-depth conversations over an entire handle of vodka with the broker once about
Nice.
Here's all the things that change every year, and I was super into it because I was drunk. But with like one thing that we didn't kind of cover just on a baseline, just most people don't understand the broker and agent relationship. There's a license you get to be able to be a real estate agent, which is different than a realtor.
Yep.
I learned it's true through that. Realtor's just hey, here's some money. I'm going to call myself a realtor now.
Yeah.
With the broker, he's the one that actually has all the liability, right? And then correct me if I'm wrong. You have to do additional training on top of your real estate training to become a broker. At that point, you can start your own brokerage, or that's the business. You, as the broker, not you, but a broker receives all the commissions and then pays a cut to the agent who did all of the work. But at the end of the day, if the agent messes up and breaks one of the myriad of rules that there is around real estate, the broker still holds all that legal liability.
That's absolutely correct. No, you got it in a nutshell. And people ask me, because I've been doing this 18 years, why are you not a broker yet? And the real skinny answer is, I've got enough. Obviously, you only have to have 4 years in Texas of experience as a sales agent to become a broker. Then you have to have, I think it's 900 hours of education or, an associate's degree at college. Well, I never went to college. So I have almost the amount of experience. But the reason I haven't got my broker's license is only due to the fact that at KW, I can still own my own company. Like I do have 3 girls that are underneath me under my umbrella. So I'm responsible for them, even though we all get paid by the broker, if that makes sense. So it's like an extension of the broker, because that's the way the KW model works.
Yeah, when you pulled up the website, it was all about entrepreneurship and like owning your own business.
Yeah, and we're really what we call we're a training and education company. That's what KW stood for.
Is there I know it's not set in stone, everything's negotiable, but is there a industry standard on the brokerage realtor split of compensation?
Not really a standard, because, and this is the other thing too that gets a little convoluted, because KW started out as like a 70-30 model. So, hey, you pay 30% to the broker.
Which is pretty typical amongst brokerages, right?
Yeah. And then some models went up to 80-20, right? And then, like I said, Remax was, I think, the first one that came out. I'm almost positive it was the first ever 100% model. Where it was like, man, you get everything you want, but then everything is feed to death, right? You've got
every time you have a commercial or your office, all of that,
everything, right? And what KW's tried to do, and I will challenge you, and I know Rachel's really good at investigating stuff. You'll never find a KW commercial ever advertising the brokerage. You will find Remax commercials everywhere promoting the brand. And that was why it was more brand-centric of the broker promoting the broker, not us as our agents. And that was a big change when Gary Keller came into the whole system and said, I don't want a company that's all about us and everybody remembers us. I want a company to teach these agents how to run it so they can create their own brands. And that's why I came up with Exposed Homes. And so I advertise myself. KW won't do one single national advertisement or anything promoting KW, because that's not the way it works.
Yeah, because even your shirt, it's Exposed Homes, Get Exposed, KW Heritage, Keller Williams Realty. So you have your own, trademark below the KW brand, which I've never seen that with any other brokerage. It's always about the brokerage.
Yeah, and they're getting more lax on that. So I think KW is what, again, broke the mold, and now everybody's trying to catch up.
Okay.
So I know Remax is starting to allow it, and others have groups that they allow. But yeah, obviously because of TREC compliance, I have to have the brokerage itself about the half point of the largest font on anything I add.
Interesting.
So if you didn't know that, yeah, because everybody's like, "Why did you put KW on there at all? Just put your name." Well, no, because then I'm not in compliance. And believe it or not, I could be up for ethics issues with TREC if somebody turned me in, right? So everything we do, advertisement, we have to have KW, the brokerage, on there, because that's the advertisement rules. You'd be amazed how many realtors don't follow that advice, right? Though, right? So,
well, it's a very shadowy world. I've noticed that, I went through hours upon hours of all the different laws you can't break, but who's gonna come after you if nobody knows that you're breaking laws? Like, you could choose to not sell to a specific home in a specific neighborhood because they're Muslim, and that's against the law, but how's anyone going to know or like call it out unless you've been educated in that? And that's why, again, I'm glad, even though I knew there was a small chance or a big chance I wouldn't become an agent, I'm like, hey, that's worth the 300, something bucks to, and I'll, the evenings and weekends of studying, and I did like a full course.
Oh, yeah.
It took me like months. And it still didn't give me all the damn answers.
I'm not putting you down at all, so I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it's possible in a weekend. That's all right.
Oh, it absolutely is.
Yeah.
In fact, one of my good buddies, he says, "Oh, dude, just pay $800 and they just give you the booklet and you just study the answers for a weekend and then go take the test." I'm like, nah, I actually want to learn the material though.
Yeah.
So I specifically chose the one where I had to like go through and do quizzes and stuff, just because what's the point of paying money if you're not going to learn shit?
Exactly.
And that's a cheap education. I went to college where I know people right now, I'm one of the lucky few that don't have student debt anymore because I almost killed myself in the oil field a few dozen times. But that was the only reason that I'm not in student debt. All of my other friends are still paying it off. So a few $100s to do something that's going to affect the rest of your life, or at least I hope most people are at least trying to own a home, because it is a great financial decision, or can be if you do it right.
Yeah.
But that being said, I wanted to backtrack into the brokerage conversation because I wanted to clear up the whole compensation thing. But moving forward, CASA, tell us about that, because I absolutely love everything about it.
So when I got out of Guardians of Children and got out of the motorcycle world, I went immediately to CASA because I said, you know what? To be a CASA advocate was a big deal within the court system. When I was downtown, I was always in the court system. I knew the DA real well. I knew a lot of the judges.
And you learned about CASA through your time with the MC Club.
Well, yeah, with Guardians of Children.
The motorcycle club.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I did. And that's when I found out about CASA. I heard their understanding of what it was. And so that was my immediate response was I told my wife, like, I always believed hard that I started from nothing. And if I don't have this going on, I need to go on to do something else to give back. And so I wanted to be an advocate. And so advocate for, being a CASA advocate for Texas basically means all these kids are in the welfare system, in under state care, that we get assigned these kids. In fact, I was just told today that I was probably going to get assigned another kid because we need more advocates, is that they have no voice for them as they get placed into different placements, to foster homes, temporary placements. There's so many other things. There's called CWAP, Child Without Placement, places where if I showed you places where these kids have to sleep, it would make you throw up at night. No walls, or no walls, no windows, just literally sleeping on the floor with a blanket and their stuff and a zip, and a big old trash bag, and that's all they got. And they're sitting there waiting for somebody to help them out somehow, right? So what we do is we get assigned these kids, we see what's going on in their file, and then what I really enjoy is that we have a court order. We are now licensed advocates that we are signed by the state of Texas, and the judge says if for anything in that child's case we have access to. So I can call the teachers up. I can call anybody up I need to investigate, to find out, make sure that kid's getting the right medical treatments. Their caseworkers are on the files. I can, now I'm never going to check a CPS agent and put them down, but we've had a couple in the past that just weren't doing their jobs, and I'd have to make some calls and say, hey guys, you need to get back with this kid. You haven't done this and this and this. Oh, well, we'll get around to it. No. It's going to go on my report, and Judge Montemayor will see this, and that's not going to be good for you, right? And that is the kind of ability we've got, because the court backs us up to what we do for our recommendations for these kids' best interest, for what placement they need to be in, what parent they need to go to, if there's a parent fighting for custody and things like that. So you have a say, like your opinion, actually, you go to court and speak to the judge about this? Oh, absolutely. So we have to present, and it's a lot of work. I don't want to scare you, but it's a little daunting at first, but we have amazing supervisors here at San Antonio. They'll walk you through it, but you have to present a court case, like basically a court report that the judge has to see, usually a day or 2 days before docket, so they get to read it off. And then they go in, and you're you're placed up on the stand if they have to ask you to it, and you have to testify what you saw, what you heard, who's doing this, and they weigh heavily on CASA on their suggestions because, again, we're doing this for free, and we've gone through the training enough to understand, the emotional status, the medical status, everything that needs to, that you need to be trained on to help these kids out. So they're going to really weigh heavily on our suggestion.
That's amazing. So the mission of Child Advocates San Antonio, CASA, is to recruit, develop, and lead highly impactful court-appointed volunteer advocates who provide constancy and support for children and youth who have experienced abuse and neglect. So I guess Marco must be a branch. I think it's the Crescent, I didn't realize it was San Antonio. That's where CASA comes from, but I think it's more of the coast branch.
Yeah, no, you're right. So court-appointed special advocate.
It's not San Antonio. Okay.
Right. And that's why it says Child Advocates of San Antonio. It's sort of weird how they do it, but that's what CASA stands for, Court Appointed Special Advocate.
Yeah. So Child Advocates San Antonio just happens to be the same acronym.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. I was very confused there for a second, but I can't think of something more noble than spending your free time helping kids that can't help themselves. I think CPS is insanely, I've met some social workers and child protective service agents, and not to take anything away from it, because it is a job, they do get compensated, but it's probably not nearly enough to go the extra mile, have your full-time job, and to be volunteering your time for this. I can't think of the amount of bullshit that we can avoid in the future by helping these kids today. It's that ripple in the water effect.
Oh yeah.
There's one kid that gets lost, ends up being part of the wrong crowd, which I hate that statement, but it's, it means something. And then they end up, through just the nature of how they were raised, the experiences they had, mostly really negative if you're already in that situation, then perpetuating that violence, that evil, if you want to call it, when that can be avoided by having someone, whether it's through your motorcycle club, whether it's through CASA, any of these contacts make a huge, huge effect going forward, not for just that kid, but everyone else they come in contact with. It's amazing.
I appreciate it. And I think, Jace, what really is sad when I went through it, because for 4 years, when I got assigned, of course, being this big bad biker, I told my supervisor, hey, I want the hardest case, right? I'll take care of them. I'm not yelling. And there's very few male advocates, which we need a lot more, right? So I came in and they gave me 3 cases, and 2 of them were sexual abuse cases. I said, you know what, coming from Carthage Children, where I had to deal with sex cases all the time, I'm a little, I just overwhelmed, right? So I ended up taking this one boy on, and as soon as I took him on, boom, I didn't even get to meet him. They immediately moved him to a different placement in Houston. So now our agreement is I still have to go see him and still do monthly checkups, stuff like that. So I'm driving to Houston to do this, and this kid right off the bat, he grew up in the streets. His mom used to pimp him out for drug money and gas money and stuff like that. And at the time when we met, he was right at 14. So I'm sorry, he was 13 at the time. And so he just learned the skill. He was sort of cool with me and all that. But then he was like, Mr. Josh, why don't you have $20 on you, blah, blah. And he was trying to do whatever he could to hit me up for whatever he wanted. And I would push back on him. And then he didn't like that. I go, I'm not giving you anything for free. He's like, what the hell are you doing here? I was like, dude, I'm here about you. And so our initial couple visits where I could tell the kid was trying to just get whatever's out of me to get what he wanted, because he had a CASA advocate before. There was an older lady, and she just felt bad for him. And so she would just give him whatever he wanted. Oh, you want candy? You want to do this? Sure, we'll do it. And so him and I had a deal when we first got in. I said, dude, I'm not giving you anything for free. You're going to earn every freaking penny. So whatever I do for you, you're going to earn it by not getting in fights, because he was getting in fights. He was getting, he ran away, jumped on a train one time and tried to run. So there was a lot of times I had to be on the phone with local police, caseworkers and all this. And what I'm getting at is this particular kid was in over 6 different placements. In 6 different placements, you learn 6 different adults' rules, their house rules, all this stuff. And then at the end of the day, when you're not there anymore, they're like, done with you, forget you. And so these kids have no solid rock of a relationship they can trust and know that's there regardless of where they're at. So here they are trying to figure stuff out and then have to change up their whole livelihood again. And then before you know it, if somebody says, hey, I don't like how you handle our staff, or I don't like the fit that you're giving us, bye. And they can boot them and they're out. And then they got to start all over again. And that's what CASA does. It provides that stability, that security of that one individual that will be there for no matter what, and love that kid for who they are and promote that kid and make sure they never lose their self-worth. And when I started understanding the impact of that, that's what changed my life and my belief in CASA. Because I'll tell you what, it was a lot of work driving that way, because he ended up getting moved to Nederland and Belmont. I mean, it was a long travel. And they're like, Josh, you got to keep this, and this up. I'm like, guys, it's not like it's right around the corner. But at the end of the day, I did it because I cared about the kid. And the hardest part for me was, like it sounds like you and I are a lot of the same. I don't want to put any BS out there. I don't want to be PC. And so they tell you a lot of times you have to be PC about a lot of stuff. Like you can't have them see your family. They can't have any interaction with your kids because it's privacy rules. It's HIPAA. It's blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. And, I'm not his CASA advocate now, so I could say it. Oh, man, I brought my kids around him all the time because he wanted to play basketball. I wanted to play football, and my kids were able to do it. And so I'm driving all that way. I'm taking my kids with me, and I'm going to have fun with them. And, of course, I had to be careful. I put it in the report, and then somebody find out. And they're like, oh, you're not supposed to do that. But that kid loved it so much, and my whole family was like, now he got excited whenever I would talk. He'd, well, how's Brandon doing? How's Jacob doing? And we would have that relationship with him. And so I'm a rebel, and that's where the biker comes in. I fought with a lot of the rules. I understand why some of the rules are there, but in the other ways, I'm like, you got to be a little bit more lenient about that stuff too. But that's a whole side issue. But yeah, I've just enjoyed it, and it's been tremendous. And I told that kid, no matter what, I'm not his CASA advocate anymore, but he's in my life. I pick him up, we got the lunch, or I'll take him to a game or something. Took him down the high school football game when the All-Star game was here. I mean, there's all types of stuff we do. And I'm like, dude, you're going to be with me to the day I die. So, get ready for it, So
how do people get involved?
Best way is go to CASA, their website, casa.sats.org. Or you hit me up. I'll be more than happy to put them in promotion of Letitia, who's our, sort of volunteer coordinator. And or Letty, we call her, and get her going, because really, I think the hardest part about doing this is when I tell people about what I do, Jace, they always go, man, that sounds phenomenal, but man, I got my own kids, I got this. And I'm like, brother, I have that too. It's not as much work as you think it is. Mine was a little bit overbearing because of how the situation turned out. But I did, in my fairness, I said, give me the hardest case, right? So, and he was the guy that did it. But most cases are not going to be that difficult. You just got to document what you're doing and just do what you say, sometimes more, but never less, with these kids. And that's it.
So I bring this up because we want to get as many people helping these kids as possible. And as we've seen with biker gangs and, rehabilitation centers, just because you may not be on paper the most noble of people doesn't mean you aren't one of the most noble. So we found this out with I was talking to a group of people of why they don't donate blood. They're like, well, I smoke weed, or I do other harder stuff, or like, no, I drink too much alcohol. I'm like, no, you can still donate blood after smoking weed. You're still saving a life. They're like, oh, I didn't know that. I was too nervous to ask. So to be a CASA volunteer, what criteria is there?
Got to be able to fog a mirror. No, I'm just kidding. No, that's how you got a loan back in 2004, right? Really, obviously, no criminal records. When it comes to federal, some big...
Even misdemeanors?
Misdemeanors are fine.
Okay, no felonies?
No felonies, yes. Thank you. Felonies was the word I was looking for. No major felonies. Obviously, anything remotely with abuse, domestic violence, anything like that. That's really... I believe, don't quote me on this, I thought there was a CASA advocate that actually did, like, he had a felony, but it was for, like, drug possession or something like that, just
So
over the
maybe
weekend.
nonviolent might be an exception.
It was all nonviolent offenders, nothing like that. So I believe that's the hard pass of how to be an advocate. And then really you're just willing to donate your time, at least show up for the minimum requirements are show up one time a month, face to face with a kid, and then have at least 2 or 3 phone conversations with the kid, and then any support staff that's there, and then just be able to submit a report on time. And usually we have court cases twice a year, for that kid. So 2 reports a year you're looking at, and then 1 CE course, like a 1 or 2 hour CE course every year. I mean, it's not
continued education.
Yeah, exactly.
And these kids are mostly living with either foster parents or like a orphanage, or is it with their parents, all the above?
Could be foster parents, could be placement centers. A lot of them are in placement centers where...
So a placement center's like an orphanage, or what's a placement center?
Yeah, it's funny. I never heard orphanage being used around the CASA acronyms, but they do a lot of that. So basically a placement center is just another fancy word, but I would say basically an orphanage, like a temporary housing for all these kids.
A PC way to say orphanage.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Okay. There you go. They've trained me well. So,
yeah. That's what the CE is for.
Exactly, yeah.
So if you want to say maybe you just want to dip your toe in, maybe you just want to kind of fill it out a little bit more, are there like meetings or places you can go to get more information, or just check out the website, or what's the best route to kind of just get a feel for it?
Yeah, great question. Facebook they have a pretty good Facebook page, so we always promote everybody to go to Facebook. We do have...
Rachel, let's get the link to the Facebook page on the
that'd be awesome
of the show.
Yeah, in fact, there you go. Wow, man, Rachel's good. I even
the best.
Yeah, well, that's amazing. So there we go. There's our number. There's the address. We're off of WW White. They revamped this whole building. Angela White is the CEO, and I love her to death. She stepped in. She's a no nonsense, no BS CEO, and she came in and said, "We've got this huge building. Why aren't we using it for cooking classes and bigger playgrounds and places for kids to play where we can take our CASA kids, because sometimes people don't know where to take them." And so we have a huge playground there, basketball court. There's a kitchen now, so they're doing training with kids on how to cook. We're the men of CASA, our group that we get together. We're talking about doing construction training. So if kids want to learn how to swing a hammer and figure all that stuff out, we've got that now going on. So that they're really doing some incredible new things for these kids that they've never had before. So,
and then as far as hours go, say you work a hard set 9 to 5, can you still manage being an advocate?
Absolutely. Yep. I mean, in fact, most of the time, that's actually the best time is afterwards. We're just be able to call the kid. You don't have to be, because I'm certainly not some social, worker guru or expert. I really, and when they say acronyms in court, sometimes I'm still like an idiot. Like, what acronym was that?
You raise your hand. Excuse me, Your Honor. What are you talking about?
You might not want to do that right to the yeah. Honor, I have a question real quick. But you can get involved. It takes literally, now the best part about technology is anytime I've talked to my CASA kid, we have a system called Optima. You have to log into Optima and just write everything that happened, right? Because your supervisors have to know, right? Because they have to support to their people in the court to let them know, our advocates are doing what they're supposed to. So you just quickly do a voice text or go on the notes and just put a little bit note. Spoke to James today, and this is what we talked about. His grades are doing great, blah, blah, blah. I need follow up with this caseworker.
Hey, ChatGPT, you read a message to my...
Yeah, good old ChatGPT.
Probably better than what I could do.
Jeez, no kidding. I know.
AI for CASA.
There you go. AI, yeah. Now they have no excuse, right? You just help them out with that. So, yeah. That's really the hardest part is getting guys to do it, because I'll talk to guys straight up at, network events, especially the night out programs, the neighborhood night outs, because CASA has had me step in and I actually spoke at one of their gigantic fundraising events, and everybody's like, "Man, I love it. I'd love to do it. But man, I just got kids. I got this. I said, "Man, guys, we all do. But think about those kids that have nobody. And are you going to tell that kid, like, sorry, I'm just too busy to help you out, dude?" And it's not talking like you have all these kids. Like, I've only been assigned one kid for the last 4 years. I'm finally getting a new case little as of today.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
Big deal.
and they'll see it. I mean, if there's a case that needs a lot more work, I mean, mine did. They knew, hey, you're going to need more time on that one. We're not going to overwhelm you. Supervisors are awesome. They're not going to overwhelm you and overload you and just say, oh, you're on your own. They really hold your hand through a lot of this. And that's the best part about these supervisors. They go far over what's required of them, and they really step up to be a support staff, and they're amazing people.
That's fantastic. And then if you just simply do not have the time or capacity, I'm sure there's places where you can donate as needed.
Absolutely.
You had fundraisers. So check out that page. But, hey, man, we've been talking for an hour, 40 minutes.
Is it really? Gosh, gee, time flies, man. This has been awesome. You're a great host, by the way. Rachel's phenomenal, and you guys make a great team over here.
She makes it easy.
Seriously.
Makes it easy. Well, that's... I think that's a great place to end it, man. I loved hearing about it. It was over a year ago when Marco and I were talking about it, and you did a great job of kind of clearing up some of the questions that I personally had. I think hopefully we can at least get a few people here in the community, and it sounds like you can find them in any major city or even not major city, aka Victoria.
Yeah.
Even though if you're from Beeville, that's the big city.
Oh, yeah, Beeville, yeah.
Shout out to Beeville.
There you go.
But just thank you, man. The amount of work that you've done to help these children. Obviously, you're an agent that can be relied on. So check out Exposed Homes, KW Heritage.
Yep.
Also, if you're looking to help out some kids, everyone reach out to CASA, see if... and don't worry if you smoke weed, they'll still...
Right, exactly. Now, my supervisor probably like, hey, you got to be careful, but they'll take them. But hey, exposedhomes.com is my website. They can always hit me up directly on that too. Not just for real estate, because I firmly believe in your network is your net worth. And so I'm a problem solver, right? So if they want to do this or they want to be part of it in another city, go for it. That's weird.
Yeah,
see, that's not our website. No,
it's not.
That's a website. If you just do exposedhomes.com,
William,
there you
more
go.
Than one. Huh?
There is. So the other
what
one.
city was that in?
Yeah, no, it's still San Antonio. So what's weird? So if you look, it says EXP San Antonio. So somebody helped me create that a long time ago when EXP came around, because they were like, "Oh, you're going to get a lot of people on this." So that's an old group photo. That's my girl Beth.
Interesting.
Way in the day. So I don't even pay that company money anymore, and they still have that site up.
Exposedhomes.com is EXP?
Well, no, it's not. No, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Yeah, they created it to be silly because it was EXP San Antonio. And so everybody would come to my website thinking I was EXP. And I'm like, no, our network guy did that. So no, that's what Rachel's got now. That's it. So
that is the one right here.
There you go. That's
so exposedhomes.com is
there you go.
One.
That's us.
Yeah, Josh, Diana, Jacob, Norma, Christy. Shout out to the team.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I love them. They're amazing. So of course Norma is my wife, and Jacob's my oldest son. So I don't know if you noticed that. No resemblance, clearly. When I met Norma, he was 4, and so I adopted him when he was 17.
No, I don't know that.
Yeah.
So. I met Jacob, fantastic guy. He's got a great spirit about him. Norma also, very kind, beautiful person. Haven't met Diane and Christy, but I bet they're amazing as well.
I know. I'm bummed that you haven't, and we need to have you guys over to do more events, because we used to throw events all the time, and we just haven't had it, so we'll be a little bit busy. So I promise you will get to meet him soon. So, yeah,
all right. Well, let's turn off the mics, have the real conversation, and have another beer.
Cool. Absolutely. I'm down.
Right on.
Appreciate it.